What's up, you guys? I'm Slash Demon of a Sword here for a coding tutorial instead of a software one. Today I'm going to show you how to program a calculator in Visual Studio 11 Beta. Now this does work in Visual Studio 2010 and Visual Studio 2010 C# Express Edition. Now I will be using C# for programming language instead of VB because I don't know VB. I only know very little C#. Now you're going to want to click on New Project, go to Windows Forms Application, and call it whatever you want. I'm a beginner at using C#, so I can only tell you what I know. But basically you're going to want to stretch out the form. Go over to Toolbox, and find the button and just place it there. Now to make things easier, go to the properties of it, and go to Size, and change the size to 49 by 40. Now you don't have to do this, it just makes it easier for all these buttons to fit on the form better. Now just go to your control key and just copy and paste it a whole bunch of times. Let me just do 13 real quick. And then just layer them out. So you got buttons 1, 2, and 3 right next to each other. Then you got buttons 4, 5, and 6. And then 7, 8, and 9. 7, 8, 9. Button 10 will be over here. Button 11 will go right next to button 10. And so you're going to want to just paste a couple more. I think like 4 more. One for the addition, multiplication, subtraction, division, the equals key, and then the divide, and then the clear key. So now you're going to want to rename all these buttons, both the text and the button name. Now I'm going to change the button name to BTN1 to make it easier, but you can change the button names to whatever you want. Now I'm going to pause the video and return once I have finished naming all the buttons and changing a text on them. Alright, so during the time I took to name all the buttons and change the text, I did take the liberty to slightly change the size of the form, but it really does not matter how big or small it is, as long as you can fit, 16, 17 buttons on here. Now you're going to want to go back to your toolbox, and add in a text box. This will be where the actual numbers are going to be entered in. You can stretch this out for as long as you want, put it wherever you think it needs to be, but it honestly does not matter, just like the buttons, because everything is probably going to be small and compact. It's just a pretty simple calculator. Alright, so now you're going to give the labels and text their button. But first, can't believe I forgot this. Change the name of the text box. Well, at least I know I am real quick. I'm going to call it text box display, because this will be where the text is displayed. Now, double click on your button 1. We're going to make it so that when you click button 1, a 1 is displayed in the text box. So whatever you label the text box as in whatever you called it, you're going to want to go in the button 1 code and type in, in my case, text box display dot text, and put an equal sign. Have that equal, again, text box display dot text plus button 1 dot text. So basically, when you run the application, look, my bad. So when you run the application, you type 1, and the 1 will always appear in there. Now you're going to want to do this for every other button, or not every button on the left side. So all of these buttons right here are going to have the same thing as button 1, except you change the button 1 name to button 2 or whatever it's going to be called. Now I'll be back after I do all this, because this is a pretty boring. Alright, so once you've done all of that, you basically should have this with all of the buttons on the left side have it set so that when you run the application, you press a button and they do appear in the text box. Now, what we're going to do now is assign 3 variables. So go up to the top, above button 1, and under the curly braces in the initialize component section, you're going to type in double and call this whatever you want. But I'm going to call this total 1. Whoops. Total 1. And set that so it equals 0. And semicolon. And then make another double variable. Call it whatever you want, but I'm going to call this one total 2. And do as the same as before, set that to equal to 0. Now we're also going to have a string variable because we'll be using cases for this. I mean, not the case, we're going to be using the switch statement. So what you're going to have to do is just put in a string for variable, and I'm going to call it the operator. Now I want to say, I did learn this all in a tutorial, so I know it works. Like, I was reading one, I was reading a tutorial I found, because I'm still learning C# as it is. Alright, so basically, now we're going to set up the buttons on this side. We're going to start with the multiplier, the addition button. Now to do this, you're going to want to use the double variables you used at the top. Total 1 equals total 1 plus double dot parse. In open brackets and a semicolon. And in the open brackets, you're going to want to call whatever you call the display and put a full stop after the name and type in text. Now, reason for the double parse is because we're going to want to convert the string up in the text box into a double. Now, after that, you're going to want to press enter and type in text box display dot clear. Yeah, clear. Parentheses and a semicolon. This will have it so that it will clear itself. You're going to want to you're going to want to also type in the operator, that string variable we had up at the top. Set that to equal in 2 quotes. Put a semicolon after the quotes, and between the 2 quotes, we're going to put a plus sign. The operator thing will be used later when we go to the subtraction. We're going to do the same for multiplication. It's all going to be the same. The only difference is going to be that the operator icon will be that of the multiplication. So this will be total equals total 1 plus double parse, and then set display.text, text display.clear, and then see, the only thing different is that the operator, what am I doing? The operator has been changed to what's that thing? An asterisk for the multiplication sign. Now you're going to want to do, forgot the equal sign. You're going to want to do this for both the add, subtract, multiply, and divide. But just as before, you can just quickly copy and then quickly paste the code and just change that to the other sign. I'm gonna do this for divide as well. Change that to divide. Now we got all of these. Now we're gonna go set up the code for our clear button, which is simply, we already typed it in, text box display dot clear, parentheses and a semicolon. Now we're finally going to set up code for our equal sign. This is going to be a little different. This is where the switch statements come in. What I'm going to do is type in switch, then switch, and then inside the parentheses that come after it, you're going to type in the operator. This is where all that stuff comes in handy. Now, you're going to want to type in under switch 2 curly braces. You want to go and type the code inside these curly braces so you can initiate code. Now, you're going to want to type in case, then the quotes, and inside the quotes is going to be a plus sign, and then a colon. Press enter, and under this is where the code that's going to initiate is. This code is total 2 equals total 1 plus double parse as well as in that will be the text display dot text. Now, under the case, you are going to want to put a break right here, because if you don't, it will not initiate. You're going to want to do the same for the others as well. Case, no, change the sign to subtraction, put a colon, total 2 equals, oh, and don't make the same mistake I did when I first did this. I accidentally put total 2 twice. You have to make sure it says total 2 equals total 1. Total 1, you can spell that right. Total 1 subtract double dot parse. Now I'm gonna go ahead and quickly pause the video and do this so I do not waste time on my side or time on your side. So I will be back in a quick instant. Alright, so one last thing before we finish off the equal sign is after you finish getting all 4 cases down, you're going to want to enter in the defaults. Now this will run if none other of those actually work. Spell default wrong. Defaults. Now, for default, the default is going to be, at least for this, default return. That way it will return nothing. It will return, so your program will not crash if someone presses the equal button without entering any numbers. Now, if all goes correctly, you should have something that works similar to this. Wait, what? 1 plus 2 equals. I'll be back in a second. Alright, so I realized what went wrong there. I forgot to add this one thing at the end of the switch statement. Now what I mean by that is under the 2 curly brackets you placed, you're going to want to do this outside of those. Still inside the equals button void, but outside the switch statement. You're going to want to type in text display dot text equals total 2 dot toString. This will then convert the numbers to a string format that is acceptable and accepted by the text box. Now quickly, to make sure that total 1 is set to 0 as we did at the top, so it does not return the number you don't want. Now once you've added that, 1 plus 2 equals 3 times 4 equals 12 minus 5 equals 7 divided by 6 equals that point, well, that, my bad. That will happen if and only if you do that without a number. So that basically is what, you know, if you press one of those without initiating a button first, without pressing an actual button, that will happen. But that's not something to be worried about. I'm going to take a guess here and say that you only need to have the return. I mean, I'm not sure. I've never actually tried this before. As I said, I'm only a beginner. And no, it does not work. Well, that shouldn't be something too concerned about. But you get the basic idea of how to make a calculator in C#. Sorry if this wasn't as professional as you were hoping, and if this was longer than other calculator C# tutorials you have found. It's just that I like to be thorough in what I do and make sure I get my point across. So, forgot to stop the thing. Stop it. And so basically, I am /Demon of the Sword, and I hope you like this video. If you are having problems with the code, please post them in the comments. I can't do all that much to help you, but I will try if I can. Goodbye, peoples.